Welcome to Season 4 of Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand. If you're watching this at time of production, it is Happy New Year. So welcome to 2025, and it's hard to believe it was 3 years ago that this podcast started. I hardly recognized the person that I was then, but I knew at that time there were things that needed to be said, and I was not the only one to say them. At that point, we were still a year and a half from having the pandemic declared as officially over. And it seems like such a long time ago, but was it really, the way time is moving so fast? When I look at those original early episodes, I go back and look to see, is the title of this podcast, is the intent still relevant? So some of the early episodes that we had were 5 things to know about passion, why we're compelled by purpose, and personal branding as the future of marketing. I think all those topics still resonate pretty strongly. But what I did before I started this is I was smart enough to go out and seek out the advice of an expert from my friend Danny Osmond. And one bit of advice he gave to me, I took really seriously. He said, Lisa, if you're thinking of starting a podcast, don't do it if you're not committed to do it the long term. Well, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And my idea of commitment may be different than yours or other people that you know. But what I did is I took that advice and really thought about it a while. And where I make decisions, I make them from my gut. My gut knew that this was the thing to do. I knew it was going to be hard, but I do hard things. Doing hard things is how I learn. I knew that there was really going to be a bold move for me because up to this point, I'd been a bit of a perfectionist. I was kind of in the middle of my recovering perfectionist time. What I would have done up until that time was before I started the podcast, I would have had 20 episodes already scripted out. I would have had my guests lined up. I would have had to purchase all of the top tier equipment. I would have had to know how all of the process goes. I would have to have all of my ducks in a row because that's how I did most things in my life. But if I had waited for things to be perfect, if I waited for everything to be in place, we would still be waiting today. This show would not exist. But what I know is when I jump in and when I start taking action is when momentum happens. So the big thing that was holding me back, as probably for many people, was how did I do the tech? I'd been around enough people in my world, the people who were sound aficionados and video experts to know that there were particular ways to make sure to get it right. And the problem was I didn't know what those things were. One thing sounds good to me might sound bad to somebody else. So I knew I needed some help in the technology space. I called on my friend Lauren Davis, and she was able to introduce me to my podcast producer who is still with me today. This show would not exist without Finn Gentle. And if you are looking for a podcast producer, highly recommend Finn. He's great to work with and really makes the show what it is, makes it sound great. And all of the videos that you see posted online, whether it's YouTube or even in my social feeds, Finn is the one that helps put those together. So I boldly moved forward, not really knowing where I was going. I had a pretty good idea, and I had the first episodes planned. But one thing this podcast has always been about is to educate, inspire, and entertain. That was my intent from the beginning. Sometimes I want to make you a bit uncomfortable and shake things up. And I want to spark different thoughts. I want to make you curious. I want to really provoke thoughts to make you think in different ways. So whether that's happened or whether it hasn't, if you've been a longtime listener of the show, most people reach out and tell me that they enjoy a particular episode or it did make them think differently. So thank you for being with me along the way. But when I got to episode 16, I know exactly what Danny was talking about. At episode 16, I'd run through my short list of people I wanted to have on the show and said the things that I needed to say to introduce the ideas. But then I knew I had to change. I had to look at things with a strategic manner. Now, I don't know if this goes back to the days when I was a teacher and I planned my curriculum scope and sequence, or if it goes into my storytelling skills. But I decided, where do I want to take my listeners? What journey do I want to take them on? And that's what I do with each of my episodes. When I bring a guest onto the show, I know where I want to take the listeners, and I construct the interview questions in a way to help get us there. So this podcast really is a platform to speak to a collective group of people. But the problem with the podcast is you don't know who's on the other side of the microphone. So what happens is you create your content for that person that you're speaking to. Who am I speaking to? A lot of people ask, who is your audience when they come on the show? I know a lot of my audience will be growth-minded people who are interested in improving themselves, a lot of self-improvement, a lot of personal development. I know that my audience, a lot of them are entrepreneurs or business people who are trying to improve their business, trying to grow more business with their personal brands. I know some of my audience are people who are purpose-driven and heart-centered servant leaders that are really trying to make a difference in the world. They want to really fully embrace life and live it to the fullest. There are people who aren't really sure where to go next, but they're willing to explore it. So as I go back and look at some of the themes that we've explored along the way, I just want to review some of those lines with you. We've had a very strong line about loving to do your work. You know, when I started, I felt like I love getting out of bed to do what I do, and I want other people to experience the same. I know that we were created each with something here to do in the world. And when we bring ourselves to our work is when we contribute the uniqueness in us. So being able to love what you do, giving people a safe space to feel like they are valued and respected and their voice is heard, that's when we create places where people love to work. So we've had a thread of that in the show. Then there were stories of people like you and me doing what we're told to be successful, what we need to do to survive and thrive. Then something happens, whether it's an injustice they see, a trauma they've suffered, or a gap in the marketplace. And they feel so strongly about it, they want to go out and take action to do something about it. We've addressed the fear that we have and the lack of visibility and vulnerability that we have. We know that self-worth impacts our ability to contribute fully from ourselves. We run from visibility. We aren't sure just how safe it is to share our opinions and just how far we can go before we've crossed that line where other people get uncomfortable with their emotions. We've addressed what entrepreneurship demands of us, how to find the right clients and keep our businesses open. We've talked about leadership, sales, and creating those cultures where people want to work. What I know is there's an increasing amount of people walking away from the 9-to-5 to do their own thing or starting a side gig on the spare time that they have. We like to think outside the box of what new possibilities that might bring for you. We've talked to people with nonprofits and how they're making a difference in the world. We've talked to people for profits who are really trying to bring their talent and skills to the marketplace. We've talked about the importance of being authentic, turning our grief and pain into purpose, and the power of our mindset to do amazing things. We've done some more tactical things too, like how to network, what to do with LinkedIn, marketing strategies to build your business by owning your audience via an email list versus building your business on someone else's platform. We've also talked about how to leverage video and YouTube and had some people on that really knew what they were talking about. We talk about the value of getting quiet to hear our inner voice, our intuition, what we can learn by interpreting our dreams, the power of our subconscious mind to take us to places we can't imagine, and the messages our body sends with this felt sense that existed a long time ago that we've now learned to ignore. We also talk about the stories that we tell ourselves that aren't always grounded in reality. And our most recent season 3, was some really straight talk and having some deeper conversations, getting to the heart of the matter with some high-performance coaches, the power of self-discovery and self-awareness, how the polycrisis is sparking a call for people to reimagine their lives and reinvent themselves. As I go back and look at the topics, These also reflect on a journey that I've taken. Over the last 3 years, as I've evolved into this person that I've become today, creating this content has given me an opportunity to share what I care about. This past season focused heavily about the desire I've seen for people to want something better in their lives. They want to improve, but they don't know where to start. They want something different than what they have now, but they don't know what that is. All they know is what they have may be fine, but they know it can be better. You can go back to listen to any of these episodes that I talked about. They're still available today. And at the time of this recording, your passion, purpose, and personal brand ranks in the top 10% globally of nearly 3.5 million podcasts and has listeners in 52 countries. So I want to thank you for that. That brings us to where we are today. A few months ago, I began thinking about what would season 4 look like and what was left to be said. I knew that it needed to be relevant, so I started taking a look around to see what I could observe. I've created some things that will integrate into many of the episodes of the season to come. So here's what I'm seeing for the direction of season 4 and why I'm excited about 2025. For those of you who lean into the energy predictions, it's going to be a dynamic year of transformation. 2025 is going to be interesting. And one of our things that we're going to be looking at is what does it mean to be human, particularly when we're doing business? Doing business will require that we expose more of who we are to build those authentic relationships. It's not only personal development and professional execution. It's also how we present ourselves, and that starts with what we think about ourselves. People have been hesitant about being authentic. They're really going to need to step out and lean into the essence of who they are. We're going to look at how do you begin to do that? What does that mean as you continue to evolve? This leads to more self-awareness and personal development. It's going to be about leaning more into who you were created to be and taking off those layers of who you are not. The second thing is up until now, we've been really focused on burying our humanity. People have been driving to work only to leave part of themselves in the car. We ask people to put on masks and fall in line to become someone other than who they are. Being human also means we're going to dig deeper into how we have other ways to communicate and take in information outside of our minds. What information are we processing through our other senses? Visually, what we feel in our bodies, our emotions, the subconscious mind that science is now only starting to catch up to discover many of the mysteries that have existed in ancient wisdom for thousands of years. The third theme is identifying the power we have for autonomy and self-efficacy and how our self-awareness is an underutilized tool. This ability to choose the direction for our lives and successfully complete tasks to reach our goals will help us determine if we're going to be on the team of the victor or the victim. Another theme will be all about boundaries. The importance of boundaries to help us reach our goals is a really critical piece. I've got a series of experts lined up from coaches to therapists to sales trainers and more who will help us see where we have the power to draw the line. Another theme is we're in the midst of a shift of one paradigm to another. If you haven't felt it, it's definitely coming. The shifting energy that we feel on this planet and how it impacts how we work and live. We've seen it in natural disasters, the collapse of the 3D as we head into fifth dimensional energy. You ever heard of the Age of Aquarius? Remember that song? We're in it now, folks. The choice we have to make between fear and love, creating a balance between your mind and logic and your heart and intuition. More and more people are making the decision of what they aren't going to tolerate any longer. The truth that was previously hidden is now being revealed. People are realizing that the systems put in place are no longer able to support them in the way they were promised. And they're ready to take back control of their future destiny into their own hands. There is a craving to know more about who we are and what we're here for. Lots of soul searching of what we're here to contribute. We've been in the process of clearing things away, and so now it's time for us to rebuild. This is going to create more craving for community of people who are going through the same thing, who are willing to come together in this collective for doing good. It has become a clear divide between those who are here to serve versus those who are here to serve themselves. And the last theme is I'll be talking a lot about some of the techniques and tools I use with my clients who are going through this process of contemplating their identity and how they want to reposition themselves in the marketplace. They may look like they want to communicate their value, exploring who they really are versus who they were told to be, and how to discover your next step on your way to your future self. So that's it. 6 themes for the year. I'll go through them again. Number 1 is the demand to become more authentic. 2, reclaiming the parts of who we are, but we told them to go away. This reimagined process to reignite your story. The 3rd is, are you going to be the victim or do you choose to be the victor? 4th is looking at our boundaries. 5th is taking a stand on which way to go, fear versus love. And finally, tools, tips, and techniques to help you get closer to your potential. I'd love to know what you think about these things, and if you have a question or an answer under these topics that you would like for me to explore. I'll go out and find the experts and see what stands as the current prevailing wisdom on these topics. Are there guests in the past you'd like to hear again? My goal is to serve you as the listener. What type of information would you like to hear? And as we head into 2025, what do you need to become a better version of yourself? That's going to wrap it up for today, and I'll look forward to seeing you here next week. I'll be talking about a blind spot that exists in many people, and I see it so clearly now since I used to be one of those people, and now it's been exposed to me. So whether you're a seasoned listener or you just found the show, please reach out to let me know you are there. You can do that in any of 4 ways. First, take a screenshot of this cover of the podcast if you're listening on your phone and share it on Instagram or even on LinkedIn. Be sure to tag me. Second, I would really appreciate if you would support the content with a review. This is a lot of how people find the show. I get lots of positive feedback on the show, but it would really help me if you would just go on and give it a 5-star review, leave a few comments, that would really help boost the show and its reach. The other, send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram or even email me. I've got a podcast page on my website. Let me know how you listen to the show. Let me know what you like about it and what you think, how you like to see it improved. And finally, I have a So Much More newsletter. It is an inner circle where I share value-added tips that I don't share anywhere else. So until next week, my wish for you is to take time to pause each day, recognizing that this is the life you get to build and the story you get to write in the way that you want on the way to discovering your legendary self. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being with me.